The weekend is here. It is Friday, which means a new episode of That Entrepreneur Show is here. And shout out to Josh Grunowitz for bringing this amazing guest our way, because startup founders, we have the show for you. This week's guest has successfully raised over $1.5 million for startup companies and has been instrumental in setting strategy and vision leadership within these companies. Alex Willis has spent the last 15 years working with companies to improve the leadership culture within organizations. His most recent company, Leadership Surge, values people over process and focuses on a holistic, strengths-based approach to leadership. It is their mission to create a fun, interactive, and experiential learning environment for emerging leaders. Prior to this company, he excelled in many fields like financial services, pharmaceutical sales, business development, and more. We're going to touch on all of that, and I have to highlight some of his success while in these roles. Third in sales production for the Southern region while at Northwestern Mutual. Fifth in the nation for Eli Lilly in marketing total portfolio sales. So he's a well-rounded entrepreneur, combining his corporate experience to found his own company. I want to share I was also at Northwestern Mutual. That was my first internship way back in, I want to say 2011. So great to see us all starting there. But everyone tuning in today, stay tuned for the spotlight story at the halfway point. Since we have someone crushing it in this leadership space, we're going to go over a Forbes article titled Entrepreneurial Leadership Behaviors to Advance How Organizations Should Work. Get Alex's take on it. But Alex, welcome to That Entrepreneur Show.
Vincent, what's up, man? Hey, thanks for having me, brother. I'm super excited to be here. Super excited to just share the stage with you, man. Talk to some amazing listeners, give just tips and tricks and things that I've learned and figured out over the years, man, and hopefully just kind of help people not have to make those same challenges and mistakes, man. Just I love what you're doing, brother, just because it gives people that the cheat code, right? The cheat code of how do you be successful, man, without having to jump through 5, 10, 20 years of hoops and cut down your level of mistakes so that you get success faster. So, hey, thanks for having me, brother.
Appreciate the kind words. And of course, I think you highlighted a lot there where we have to give back, or we don't have to. I think we should give back through our stories, our experiences, because of how many struggles I faced in the beginning, even while networking. There's just no blueprint to entrepreneurship. We know how to work for a company, but as far as running a company, we're talking admin work behind the scenes, from website to social media, let alone running your own business and networking. There's a lot to do. He's going to bring his tool chest out today to hear on That Entrepreneur Show, the podcast where I have the privilege of sitting down with founders of companies or brands from all around the world each week since 2019. And here we are today sitting down with, again, Alex Willis, bringing his leadership surge to the show. But Alex, we're going to backtrack a little bit. You're at Northwestern Mutual, you're at Eli Lilly. What eventually led you to entrepreneurship, starting your own company?
This segment is sponsored by Bedrock Business Builders, a small business startup specialist. Start, build, manage.
Well, I've always wanted to do it, Vince. I'll be honest with you, man. So my former background, even before then, I was a college athlete, played football at the University of Florida. So I'm a diehard Gator, man. And went from there and got a little short stint in the NFL, played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so this grind and drive and effort has always been in me, right? So it was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So I've always wanted that freedom to be able to create and develop something. I didn't know what. But then also not only do that, but also develop a space for others to grow, right? And so I knew that it would be very difficult to do that within a company. And I learned that rather quickly in my corporate career.
Yeah.
You have a lot of constraints. And so I really want to just kind of be able to build a culture the way I wanted to do it, to be honest with you, man, and a culture that I really truly believed in, that was people-centric, that really put people at the heart of it, that allowed people to grow, that challenged people, that was a high-performing environment, but at the same time personal. And I couldn't find that anywhere, to be honest with you, man. So therefore I said, screw it, let's go develop it ourselves and let's build it, man, and then teach everyone in the world how to do it.
In entrepreneurship, that's what we're doing. We're constantly trying to find a better way to do it. And I can resonate where even in my corporate experience from Merrill Lynch, Northwestern Mutual, PricewaterhouseCoopers, these big firms and banks, I never had a mentor in any of these roles. I went through all these corporate things without a mentor. And that's one of the, eventually said, Vin, stop having 1 foot in, 1 foot out, go for it all, start your journey. It may take some time. They said in the beginning, Vin, don't be surprised 10 years till you really, 5 years for this. Then I'm like, here we are 8 years in. I get it, because now the podcast is rocking and rolling here. We're on year 4, and we're finally sitting down with Alex. Alex, I'm going to go off here a little bit. You mentioned
Let's do it.
Some football experience here, college football, professional football. It led you to leadership. I don't think that's coincidental here. So what are some of that learning lessons you carried over from playing in sports in that environment that now you said, okay, you always wanted to be an entrepreneur. You had the tools now to do it.
Vincent, I'll say this. My wife, Sabrina, and I talk about this today. She has now become an avid football fan. She didn't like it, to be honest with you. Even when I played, she's like, but now she is obsessed with football, man. No other way to say it. Because everything that I do, man, is because of sports and because of football. And I tell people this all the time. If you really understand the game of football and sports, just in general, and I'm not just saying play it, but understand it at a strategic level, you will crush life from an entrepreneurial standpoint. So let me give you an example. Football is 90% practice. The game is only 60 minutes, man. You're practicing 6 days a week, watching the blitz, watching film, watching tape, breaking down film, trying to find that one small little thing that someone's doing wrong and how you're going to exploit it, practicing it over and over again, saying, hey, listen, if they do this, here's the audible that we're going to call. It's situational. You get instant feedback. You drop a pass in the game. By the time you come back, the coach is chewing your ass out on the sideline. If you lose a game, you're having to be accountable for that to the media immediately. And so when you talk about taking those kind of things, implementing them into a company where you're not waiting for annual reviews or quarterly reviews. No, we have instant feedback to help people immediately. We have practice where we're putting them in situations to think about those things early on, giving them training to practice skills and all those kinds of things. Man, you're crushing life when you implement a sports mentality to corporate America.
I just put that in the show notes because I want to make that the video clip for this episode. Just how it translates over to the workplace, the lessons you learn through sports. And a lot of people, I think, listening on, we may not have hit the pinnacle of getting into the pros, but there are lessons learned through sports that I carry with me. I knew my size, 5'6" on a good day, wasn't getting me to the league, but all the lessons I had along the way, from teammates to solo lessons, from wrestling younger, running on my own, it all carries over to the discipline I have in entrepreneurship. Thank you for sharing that, Alex.
Love it. Can I add one more thing there, Vincent? One other thing that I love here, man, that you just mentioned without saying it explicitly, but sports is the ultimate place that holds leaders accountable. If a team isn't performing, they don't fire the players; they fire the head coach. They're like, hey, no problem. Hey, you clearly you couldn't get it done. In corporate America, we find that most times leaders don't get fired, and employees are the scapegoats, right? That we get rid of employees, but we keep leaders in leadership positions, where sports does the total opposite. I mean, Jerry Jones is looking at his team up and down all the time, like, hey, man, get rid of this person. This person has to go. They can't get it done, and they hold leaders accountable. So I love the accountability at the highest level there as well.
I'm not a Cowboys fan, but man, do I feel for them. Oh, man. As a Jets fan, I have just used to what we had this year it was great, but that's a whole nother story. But the Cowboys, I mean, I forget how much Dak makes, which number he is in the league with that, and then how he's he had the only players in the category was him, the Texans quarterback, and someone else to have more picks than Son. I just saw this stat, it made me cringe because
tough, man.
But
that's the other thing. But that's the other thing, Vincent, that's great about sports. We actually measure things. Companies go without measuring all the time. If you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to measure. What are you measuring so that we can look back and say, damn, Dak, we're paying you this amount of money and this is where you are. We have a problem here, right? And companies, if you can really begin to grasp those concepts and those principles, man, the sky's the limit for you.
Metrics are so important. You have to be able to justify it, or maybe poor leadership is in place. Maybe someone else needs to lead the direction. Learning a lot of great lessons from Leadership Surge. While we're talking about Leadership Surge, we're going to dive more into your company, but I want to plug the website right now, the social media. That way, if anybody wants to pause the show, they can go check out what you're working on.
Man, well, hey, thank you so much. So if you want to check us out, you can go to leadershipsurge.com, and that's surge like an electrical surge, surg.com, surge.com.
Mhm.
You can find us on social media on LinkedIn at Leadership Surge, right? You can find us there, as well as you can find me there on LinkedIn at Alexander Willis. Alexander Willis. So yeah, man. So that's kind of my platforms right there. Because on some of the other social media platforms, I'm kind of backing off a little bit, Vincent, to be honest with you.
I
When
feel
you
that.
hit
I
certain
understand.
levels of a business, you got to say, well, I need more time to focus. And so therefore, hey, let's get rid of some of the other platforms that kind of distract at times, because as you go up, similar to sports, you're always having to adjust your game plan, right? So when you hit, six figures, seven figures, eight figures, those are things that now you have to start to readjust and say, what I was doing isn't working anymore because I'm in a different realm, different atmosphere. So therefore, I have to cut something back so that I can really begin to focus in on that. And that's where a lot of entrepreneurs fail. They fail to realize the constant adjustments that they have to make and the audibles that they have to call as they go to different levels.
Time management is major key, and you could have said
Huge.
better. For me, I was off social media a whole lot. I knew I needed to be better, but the way I looked at it was this: a school or a hospital I don't feel will not bring me in because I don't post on a daily basis. I'm not chasing that follower mark, and that's where I
Right.
was at. But in the digital space, I know I need to be more accountable. I have all these podcasts that have such great listenership, and I was slacking on social media. So now I know I
Yep.
owe it to at least the guests, holding myself
Yep. Yep.
accountable. But I'm almost at that point, like we spoke about before the show, with how long it takes, where I can outsource this fully. I feel in another month or
Yep.
two, it's going to be nice to, as I can reallocate time to different areas, learn from the lessons I had. But leadership surge, more about it.
Oh man, well, hey, we started about 10 years ago and we found a niche. So I tell entrepreneurs, find your niche, find your niche and find a way to go deep versus wide for us. So what we did, Vincent, man, we realized that the construction industry did a great job of teaching people technical skills, but didn't do a really good job of teaching leadership skills. And when you have these massive projects where you have your Facebooks, your Googles, your Amazons building these huge data centers, what happens, man, is they bring in hundreds of companies. So you have hundreds of cultures coming together to build one big, massive place and building. Dude,
Right.
that is a shit show waiting to happen. I'm just be honest with you. Dude, it's crazy when you have that many cultures, no people skills kind of, focused in on there. So what we really begin to do was say, hey, listen, how do we create a culture of accountability from a people standpoint that's in a way that really speaks to our trade people, that in a way that they learn, they get it, because a lot of times they're not as studious as, some of our other students who like sitting in the classroom. So they have to get it, learn it a different way. They love experimenting, learning with their hands. And so we said, well, hey, let's take that same concept and develop it into leadership skills where we have wild, crazy activities that relate to their style of work and their type of understanding. But in the same way, they get these hardcore principles of leadership so they can really begin to smooth things out in their life and at work.
I think that's so important because if there's no direction to follow, how do you expect success to follow? If there's not you're not laying out your employees a path for success, how can you expect success? It has to start the top down. And that's such great work you're doing at Leadership Surge. But on your path here, Alex, learning how to become this powerhouse entrepreneur,
Yes.
I know you've had to learn from a few areas. We find success in different ways, each of us. So I'd love
Yes.
to ask you, what is one app, book, tool, workshop, something that made an impact in your life that you could pay forward to our audience?
Man, I'll tell you the best thing to this day, and it still pays dividends for me, Vincent. It's called the four lens assessment, the four lenses, right? I think it's a company called Shipley Communications who does it. And Vincent, it breaks down people and how they think, how they operate from a personality standpoint, how they buy, how they learn, what stresses them out. This is highway manipulation, man. If you learn it and do it well and be authentic with it, dude, man, the sky's the limit. So when you ask, that question, when you look back across my career, I've had tremendous success from sports to financial services to entrepreneurship to pharmaceutical sales, and it all comes down to understanding people and being able to speak their language. And so this is the one tool that has helped me understand who's in front of me, be willing to dial up or dial down my personality to engage with them better, so that it's a great interaction there. Because what I learned over the years is people do business with people they like. Right. So you can say what you want, but if you're difficult to deal with, man, people are at a place, they're like, hey, I don't want that stress in my life. So therefore, I'm going to bow out on this. All right. So, yeah. So I would say the Four Lens Assessment by Shipley Communications. They have a book called The Four Lenses Unfolded. It talks about how people spend money, how people, based on personality, how they listen, how they learn, dude. My close rate, Vincent, as a result of that book, is 90%, dude. It's a 90% close rate, man. 90%, dude. It's crazy. Crazy.
I mean, you just gave me a recommendation. This is getting added to the queue. I'm going to go check out this. Everybody out there will be in the show descriptions. He's recommending the Four Limbs of Assessment, Shipley Communications. That is the first brought to the show. I love learning new things. That's why I keep having these talking points involved. We've been talking about evolution, having to pivot as entrepreneurs. That question was not always in the talking points. That is something that came about a year ago. So I'm glad I had it. But before we hop into this week's Spotlight Story, where we talk entrepreneurial leadership behaviors, we're going to ask our guests, give a little more advice to our audience. What are two of the more challenging parts of being an entrepreneur? You had great corporate experience. You had some athletic experience. But now when you're all alone, that team's no longer around you. You find your mentors, of course. You find some people in your corner. But the game show is all on you.
It is on you, Vincent. I'm gonna say this for me. What I had to do, and I had a mentor who showed me this, man. I mean, and the words he said to me about 25 years ago still stay with me, right? Because he's like, dude, you're all sizzle and no steak. And I'm like, damn, right? And so the deal, Vincent, was, man, and I tell entrepreneurs this all the time. There's two parts of this game that you have to love and fall in love with. Most time, Vincent, entrepreneurs fall in love with the art. I'm gonna use you as an example. They fall in love with podcasting. They fall in love with interviewing and talking to people and getting great questions and how we're gonna have a great show. And they fall in love with the product, but they don't fall in love with business. So therefore, they're not managing the business side of things at the same level and same passion of the product side of things, right? So it's an artist who paints. I just love to paint. Well, what's the pricing of it? What's the pricing model? How are we marketing this? What are we going to do? And so that's a whole nother pivot that most entrepreneurs don't realize. They have to fall in love with that piece as well. So for me, I had to get steak on that side of things, man, because I was a lot of sizzle on what we're going to do, how awesome it's going to be. But as far as, cash flow, as far as books keeping, as far as what the next level looks like, as far as investing in future properties that's going to help us grow, I had to fall in love with that and understand how to do that really, really well. So I would say, well, number one, being able to separate the art, of what they do from the business day to day is very difficult. And you have to understand that, and you have to take it as important, right? If not more important, because it allows you the freedom to do that piece of it, right? So that's definitely number one, understanding that and being able to do that. Number two, it is being accountable to yourself and learning how to do that really, really well. And a lot of people don't do that well, man, because at the top, you're the head honcho. Who can tell you, Vincent, who can tell you to get up this morning, right? Who can tell you that you can't sleep in? And a lot of entrepreneurs fail at that, because I have a lot of young struggling entrepreneurs failing to realize the level of discipline and structure you have to mandate on yourself. And how do you do that? And so how do you do that when typically we're horrible managers of ourselves, right? Because we let ourselves off. And so I give tips and tricks on how to do that. So here's a few things I'll tell you. So I'm a firm believer, especially being an athlete, former athlete, that to whip the mind in shape, you have to whip the body in shape, right? So I work out simply because of that, just trying to mentally tear myself up. And so things like making yourself stay in a plank for X amount of minutes, right? And say, hey, listen, no, you're not getting out of this. Starting to learn that discipline. Things like starting the morning off with a cold shower, saying, hey, dude, I don't care how cold it is, you're going to stay here for 30 seconds. You cannot move. And so it's forcing yourself with little things to start putting that mental toughness on yourself to schedule yourself when no one's around making you do it. You have no deadlines. How do you do that? So that's where I see most entrepreneurs struggle with, that scheduling, the structure when you're the boss. And then number two is falling in love with the business side of things.
Such great examples. And when no one's around, that's when it's hardest, right? No one's pushing you. But for me, if I love what I do, the passion's always been there. I plan out my day before bed every day, and I'm all in. I'm in the gym every morning because that's just my mental health cheat. My day is ready when I get in the gym. I'm thinking clearly. If I don't go to the gym that day, I'm overthinking. I'm not as productive. I'm all over the place. I couldn't agree with you more. And in the beginning, I was in this entrepreneurial whirlwind, just spinning and drowning and floating, where I'm finding these guests, like you said, I'm doing all these things, but then COVID comes. I'm trying to be a school speaker, get my books in school. What am I going to do? I have to still grow my brand through these shows, through this. Now, people who've heard me say this, I couldn't get into the schools because the principal gatekeepers, there's a lot going on. You name it, I wasn't taking no. One of my part-time hustle, I do it a few times a month as a substitute teacher. I go meet these guidance counselors firsthand now this year, and I have 3 meetings already on the books from the schools I did. If you can't find a way in, you got to make your own way in. And in entrepreneurship, that's just something I've just learned, trial and error, thinking outside the box. Okay, this isn't working. No, I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to keep pushing here. I'm really excited to now that hopefully the leadership in this country, we can all move past COVID as crippling these kids, let them be in school, have books, have assemblies again. I'm excited to get in there, but now I think it's a great time to hop into this spot. Thank you, Alex. It's going to be exciting to get this final book out, my Healthy Minds book series. I have the toddler book coming out, wrote it in English and Spanish. That's about a month away now. And then I'll have a book for every age group relating to mental health. So now it's more about getting in the schools, getting in the organizations around the country. But like you said, that's the second part. There's 2 parts.
Well, I'll tell you this. Hey, let's talk, man. Let's talk offline on this right here, and let's talk about that right there offline later on when somebody's at the window right there, man. So let's talk offline later, because I think there's a space for that in construction, man. I think a lot of our men and women in construction, they understand how that affects them at times, and they want something for their kids, right? And so we've had huge success partnering and pairing leadership skills with home life skills that people, that's one reason they love us so much, man. So I would love to talk to you more about that.
We'll be chatting after the show for sure. And now we're going to be talking about entrepreneurial leadership behaviors to advance organizations. And we're going to get Alex's take on it as an expert in this field, 10 years doing his thing, the Leadership Surge. This article does have 13 attributes that are discussed in building a culture that is entrepreneurially centered. Seeding and cultivating these behaviors are key to building a business within a business paradigm. Let's talk about the 6 attributes first. Initiative, customer focus, results oriented, quality, value, and customization. I'm going to go ahead and talk about a few. Creating a culture that feels responsibility to manage operations and keep an active lookout to improve their operational area of accounting means seeking feedback, being open to new ideas, valuing collaborative teamwork to remove obstacles or implement new improvements. Without initiative, mediocrity flourishes and breakthrough possibilities are seldom fully realized. This is what we kind of talked about before, where we have to pivoting, evolving, can't keep things the same. And now I want to talk about results orientation. An entrepreneurial culture accepts responsibility for results, not just managing processes or resources, but equally understand that performance outcomes are key to operational excellence. Another thing we just spoke about, we're prioritizing both sides of being an entrepreneur. Now I want to touch on value. Demonstrating value requires a vigilance to find new ways to improve operational efficiencies and effectiveness by reducing costs, leveraging assets, building stronger business cases. Value to an entrepreneur also means building sustainability over the long term versus short-sightedness. There's a lot of key points in this article. Alex, I'd love to hear your takeaways.
Oh man, great stuff. Great article, first and foremost. I mean, I love that you referenced this. I mean, Forbes does a great job with this one. I love the first one to start off with, and that's a challenge though, Vince. And I'm gonna show why this is a challenge, because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we get so focused on where we're going, and especially when you start building a team, it's your baby, and so initiative, and creating new things. And when somebody throws an idea out there, sometimes you can shut it down really quickly. I've learned that. So I'm learning now to say yes and versus no to my people right out the gate, right? Say, yeah, well, yes. And if we tweak it this way, we can do more of this, right? Because that initiative and those new ideas that we are looking for, oftentimes if we cut people off at the knees, you're not going to get other ideas. So I'm learning, don't cut people off at the knees. I don't care what the idea is. Really say yes, and let's think about that a little bit. Maybe it's not the timing right now, but keeping that environment open so that you do have that, the lifeblood of your company is those new initiatives coming in and things just coming in great, right? Those are huge. And I think that's super important as you talk about that. I think number 6 was another huge one that talks about customization. So I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get stuck in the mud thinking it has to be a certain way, and this it's always going to be like this, right? And so therefore, that customization allows us to say, and it actually marries 1 and 6 together, saying, hey, we need new initiatives, new ideas. How do we customize this to really serve the customer well, which is also in there when we talk about customer focus and kind of talking about that piece of it. So being willing to customize what I do, and here's what we have to understand: you don't have to sacrifice the integrity of the idea to be customized, right? So I hate it when my team says, well, there's only 2 ways to do that. And I'm like, bullshit. No, there's 1,000 ways to do something, right? We can still keep the heartbeat of what we're doing, but we can find 1,000 different ways to do that. And so I really challenge teams to say, hey, how do you keep your values who you are, but be open to customizing it, be open to coming up with new initiatives and new ideas that are small little tweaks of it. So, I mean, I think it's phenomenal, man. Phenomenal.
I love what you said there, because I am guilty of myself. Where in the beginning of this journey, I knew where I wanted to go, and you should be stubborn on your goal, but I was not flexible in getting to that goal. I thought there was just this way. I'm going to do this, this. No, you have to tweak this. You could still do this, but you're going to have to do this as well. You're going to still do this. And then there would be no way I have to realize that your way may not be the only way. It may not be the right way. As hard as that was to swallow, sometimes my way was wrong. My MBA speech, I ended with Thomas Edison. There's a better way to do it. Find it. There's just there is.
100%. I tell you, and let me piggyback on that, Vince. So what I've learned, man, what I've learned is when you do what you just said with your teams and people around you, be it consultants, be it teams, be it whoever, they take ownership because it's their idea now. So, dude, they run through brick walls and they're willing to do whatever you need them to do because they put their piece of the pie there into what you're doing now, and they take ownership of it because it represents them now, right? It's not me dictating, go do this, do it this way. It's like, hey, no, here's kind of where we need to go. What do you think? What do you think is best? What's going on? I share this with my teams all the time, that I cannot dictate. I tell my team this, the people that work with me, I can't dictate what's priorities for you. Now, I can veto and challenge you and say, well, let's talk about that. But I can't dictate exactly, say, you have to do this. But, I push back a little bit at times. But at the end of the day, I let them know, hey, here's where we're going. Your job is to think clearly and creatively, how do we best get there, and let them go from there.
So well said, and just leading the way. Leadership surge. You're giving them the surge to follow.
Hey, we're trying, brother. We're trying, brother. We're doing it, man. We're doing it.
Well, it's very impressive how long you've been able, again, sustain your success. I'm very happy to see everything you've accomplished. And now that we're connected, I look forward to seeing what's next. But before then, it's time for the final question here.
Oh, let's do it.
Someone you have not met, dead or alive, which entrepreneur throughout history would you sit down with to pick their brain, have a conversation with?
Dude, I'm gonna let you know this. I was on the plane this morning, flying here. I'm in Cali right now, so I was at the airport at 5:00. So I saw that question, man. I'm like, oh, who is it? Who is this? I've been just racking my brain. I'm gonna tell you,
it's tough. It's tough. There's 1,000 of them.
It is tough. It's tough, dude. It's tough. But I found someone for me that was really threw me for a curveball, Vince. I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. And the person I said, if I could meet anyone dead or alive, it would be Madam C.J. Walker. Of all people, dude, Madam C.J. Walker was a female Black entrepreneur who became a multi-millionaire dude making hair products for Black people. But she did this, dude, at the same time of the Rockefellers. Dude, she lived next door to Rockefeller. And I'm like,
That's crazy.
holy shit. I'm like, as a woman, Black in that time frame to reach those levels of success, I would love to sit down with her because, in my opinion, Vincent, I saw a documentary on her years ago. And this is just her words. She was not attractive at all. And she was pushing a beauty product. She was a Black woman in a male-dominated society and Black. So, dude, it's like, how the hell did you cut through all of that? And then on top of that, she found the product from another lady. So another lady was doing the product. She took the lady's product and made it better. So she took a product, made it better. All those obstacles against her. I would love to just kind of pick her brain and say, well, how did you cut through in a male-dominated society, being a Black female, not attractive, so people pushing back with your beauty products? How did you make multi-millions doing this, right? So, yeah, man.
Great choice. Way back in the beginning of the show, she was one of these spotlight stories. I didn't always do topics. I also did like famous people that really went through it and to learn from their struggles. But then I learned from a lesson learned where I had a guest come on and say, oh, well, I don't really know anything about that person, or, oh, that doesn't really relate to me. So from that point, I try to be selective of who I pick.
Love it.
But before I let you go, where are you sitting down with her if you get the location choice too? Where's that going to be?
Oh, man, where am I sitting down with her? Oh, man, you know what? Man, I'm a bougie guy. So you're going to learn a lot about me right now, Vince. So Vincent, we're probably at a Ritz-Carlton somewhere, on a beach, man, just kicking our feet up somewhere in the Caribbean on a beach with the sun, man, having a favorite beverage of our choice, just chilling out, brother. That's probably what we're doing.
I love it. I'm going to even hit you with another fun fact I got off a
Let's do
podcast
it.
similar that she went through all that anniversary. Thomas Edison and Henry Ford, they were actually next door neighbors and they were bouncing ideas off each other back in the day. They were part of like this gun down here in Fort Myers, some like, not the NR, they were part of all these clubs together. And I'm like, imagine having that guy next door to you. You have an idea, Henry Ford or Thomas.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I was blown away with that, but I'm going to end it on that, Alex. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us all the way out in Cali. I had a great time. And again, another shout out to Josh. We appreciate the love thrown to the show. Josh, yes, I think, has the record, or he's going to have the most like overall appearances on over all of my shows. He's been on them all. Josh is a great guy. Be sure to check out Josh Grenowitz as well online, but online as well. We have Leadership Surge. Please say all that social media again, anywhere we can find you.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks so much again for having me, Vincent, man. So, hey, remember leadershipsurge.com is where you can find us online. And you can find us on LinkedIn at Leadership Surge or at Alexander Willis on LinkedIn, man. And, hey, would love to just reach out and help out any way that I can, anyone. I do this, man, out of the love and just helping entrepreneurs just kind of think through it and understand how to lead their way through a dark place at times as you're trying to figure out where the light is.
That's right, everyone. Be sure to go check out all his content. And the show is at That Entrepreneur Show, hashtag That Entrepreneur Show. And I am at Vincent A. Lancy. Be sure to head to YouTube for a video preview of this show. The YouTube channel is Vincent A. Lancy, home of the Writing with Authors series. Be sure to stop by next week for another show here on That Entrepreneur Show. Alex, thank you for stopping by.